everybody, it's Dr. Betsy, and we are here with another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. You are going to be so excited with what we're going to be talking about today. I have Dr. Coco Cabral, the Flamenco Dancing MD, with us. So thank you so much, Coco, for taking the time to talk with us.
Oh, thank you, Betsy, for having me on the show. I am so thrilled to be here, and I've so much been looking forward to our conversation.
First of all, how did you become the flamenco dancing doctor? That's not something you really think about those going together.
Right. They seem like so opposite, yet they both coexist in me. And here's the thing. I have been a dancer my whole life, dancing ballet since I was 5. I was also a professional Philippine, Hawaiian, and Tahitian dancer as a kid, kind of around 5th grade. So dance has always been a part of me. Of course, I went to medical school, graduated. I was in the honors program in medical education at Northwestern University. So was kind of one of the younger medical students, but, got that MD and went straight into teaching because I realized I really liked teaching. And I also realized that I wanted to have the time to still be able to pursue my interests in the arts. Of course, dance at the core, but, other arts alongside with that. It was after I had my eldest son that I discovered flamenco dance and became a professional in flamenco dance. Very, very quickly was asked into a dance company in Chicago. And so that was a really wonderful part of my life. And in there, as I was performing and started teaching dance and choreographing dance, I was actually recruited by the University of New Mexico in Taos to build their flamenco dance program. And when I got there, they saw on my resume, wait a second, you have an MD. And I was like, yeah. And they said, well, we have this anatomy and physiology class that we need to split into 2 sections. And can you teach one of the sections? And I was like, sure, if you can work it into my dance teaching schedule. So that was really the first time that I blended the two. Especially as a teacher, professor, that kind of thing. Fast forward to kind of the aftermath of that and having my own dance company and performing through my dance company. And after every show, people would come up and say, oh, that was so beautiful. I wish I could do that. And I would always say, well, come to class. And unanimously, people would shrink away, like physically shrink away. Oh, no, I can't do that. It was always, I'm too awkward. I'm too shy. I'm too heavy. I'm too whatever. I'm too old, all the things. And I would get very sad because I would feel like, oh, because of all these excuses, they're not able to tap into the power of flamenco that I knew, because flamenco came from a place of oppression and overcoming oppression in the caves of southern Spain. So that's ingrained into the movement quality. But you have to pass through the movement to do it. So I was always thinking for all these years, how can I make this accessible to non-dancers? And it was during the pandemic that it became obvious, because suddenly everybody was receiving their content, including fitness, online. And they were accepting that and even expecting it. So I turned half of our living room into a home studio, reached out to some friends and family and followers to just sort of start and see what the interest level would be. Got some founding members, and now I have a program and a business, and here we are. So I sort of organically became known as the Flamenco Dancing MD through my fitness classes, because the fitness classes are definitely based in, flamenco movement and flamenco posture and flamenco strength. but I teach it with my anatomy and physiology and neuroscience experience underneath it and behind that. And we actually do, 10 to 20 minutes of Q&A after class. We stay after, and people ask whatever they want to ask. Like, they can ask about, oh, this shoulder movement, I'm not sure if that felt right, or my knee injury or my lower back, like these old injuries that they're trying to get through. And we can talk about those things in the context of the exercises that we just did. And I'm also able to, from there, because these are our subscription members, we're able to work over time on plans, for, okay, working through a knee injury recovery, or working through a surgery recovery, that kind of thing. And that now I actually have my first postpartum ladies bringing their babies in to class, like into their Zoom squares. And we also now have partners coming into Zoom squares. So it's this wonderful growing family, really, of fitness that is based in this incredible, empowering type of movement. So it's been just this lifelong trajectory, really.
That is so amazing. And I love it too, because, I'm trying to focus myself more on movement as opposed to exercise. And people probably heard me say this before, like the word exercise. I mean, we all need more movement, but it's like, sometimes it seems so dreary and like, let me go to the gym and let me do that. When really all we need to be doing is moving our body more. So why not do it in a fun way?
Exactly. That is exactly it. And actually, in a lot of my descriptions, and a lot of it is based on exactly what you said, like coming from my very own clients, is, yeah, that word exercise is either intimidating or yucky sounding, right? Or you have that bad taste in your mouth from some previous experience. But movement, oh, that sounds a little bit more doable is one thing, but also enticing, is another thing. And one of my clients, she likes the word training. She likes the word training, and so I interchange, that word in there too when I'm, talking with people about what we're doing. Because I've noticed some of my clients like that word also, because I think training sort of connotes, you've got a goal and you're working in a focused way towards that goal. So that word also works really well.
How have you dealt with, like you said, a lot of people are like, I can't do this. It's my body won't move like that. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. Like, I won't be good for that. Like, how do you deal with that mindset?
Oh yeah. I get that a lot. And a lot of what I do is really encourage people, like, okay, just try something for 5 minutes, because I hope that most people will try a little something for 5 minutes. And, and it doesn't have to be anything like hard for 5 minutes. It can be something as simple as, like roll your shoulders for 5 minutes, and you can do it while you're washing dishes, right? And the thing is, while you're doing it, take some breaths. Here, I'll show you while we're doing it. Like, take some breaths. So take the breath in on the way forward and up, and then push the breath out on the way back, and be sure you get the bottom of that circle, and just really enjoy that full circle with the shoulders and the breathing. And you're still getting your dishes done, by the way, but you're also, lubricating the shoulder joint and the other joints that work sort of around and with the shoulder. You're conditioning all these muscles, and you're not doing anything hard, right? Like, as hard, I'll put that in quotation marks, in the traditional sense of hard exercise, like push-ups, right? Like a lot of people don't want to do push-ups, right? Or chin-ups, or like that kind of, or like you said, go to the gym and be on the machines, right? But you can get an incredible amount accomplished for, let's say, your posture, and let's say your shoulder joints, just doing this while you're doing the dishes. Oh, like that. And then at the end of it, just let the shoulder blades settle at the end of that movement, right? Settle kind of in the back and the bottom there. And look at how different the posture is, right? We got some flamenco posture going, instead of this is how I usually do the dishes, hunched over, that kind. And oh, I'm doing dishes, isn't this miserable? But no, we can make the chore uplifted, and we get the uplifted posture, and we get the conditioning and the lubrication, all the benefits, right?
I love that. And I think that, that's great too, because we really, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, like I think there's been a lot more issues with people just being sedentary. And so as humans, we were not meant to be sitting around hunched over a computer, hunched over a screen all day long. So why not, find something fun to get the body moving? So yeah. And you know what? I can't wait to ask you some more about this when we come back from the commercial break.
Perfect.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
All right, and we're back on the Body, Mind, Spirit show talking with the Flamenco Dancing MD, Dr. Coco Cabral. So yeah, I brought up before the break is that we're really just, so many of us are sedentary. I keep hearing the phrase that being sedentary is like the new smoking, and our bodies were really like meant to move. But I think the advantage too with the flamenco is it's not just movement, that we're probably, I'm assuming that the music plays into some neurotransmitters, some brain, good brain chemistry, and just the type of movement is probably also boosting your brain and your mood. So yeah.
Absolutely. You absolutely nailed that one, Betsy. I'll use the pun on the head, since we're talking about brain. And there have been some recent studies that came out that confirm that movement, and you've got to do the movement first, right? And you can also choose your movement, like choose what you like to do. Of course, I happen to like dance, right? But you can choose the movement that you like, and as little as 5 minutes will release, not only the feel-good hormones that a lot of people have heard about, endorphins, dopamine, but also newer neurotransmitters that were more recently discovered, specifically endocannabinoids. And yes, that's similar to cannabis. And we have those receptors in the stress response areas of our brain. And we produce these, endo means inside, right? And so endocannabinoids are these substances that we produce. The trick is you gotta move, right? You have to do that movement that you like to get the body to release them and to let them work on the brain, and then you release that stress. So that's the key. And it really can be as little as 5 minutes. Flamenco movement, since of course my preferred type of movement is dance, because that's just what I love. The thing about flamenco, because I've tried ballet, tap, modern, Philippine folk dance, Hawaiian, Tahitian, all these things, flamenco is very empowering because of where it came from in history. And that music was created, because you talked about music, that music was created to help people who were oppressed to overcome that sadness, that hardship, that despair, right? And that's the nature of the music. And then, of course, movement was created to complement that music. So built into these really specific flamenco moves is that goal of empowerment. So we get on the science side all of those great neurotransmitters being released, and we get on that emotional, artistic side the empowerment. And so this is why I love flamenco so much, not just for myself anymore, but for my clients. And turned it into, this is why it was so important for me also to turn it into exercise so that even non-dancers could access this. And this is why it works so well and so quickly. 5 minutes into class with all that music and all that movement going on, oh yeah, people are transported into, wow, some fantastic place, some dreamy place, some fantasy place, whatever it is in their minds, so that by the time we get to the end, and you know, some of my classes are 50 minutes, some of them are 25, and I'm going to be starting short ones, 15-minute classes. But either way, that's all you need, because it really only takes 5 to start the release.
I'm sure like people probably come into it at first, like when they're first starting, like, oh my God, how am I going to get through like 25 minutes? And I think I could probably bet that by the end, they're like, wait, it's done? Like, what?
That happens all the time. That totally happens all the time. And I think that's why the Q&As are so successful afterwards, because yeah, people want to stay and like, okay, well, we're done moving, but we can still like talk and ask questions. And actually this really magical thing has happened, that people have become friends. And because it's via Zoom, I have people coming in from across the country and some people from other countries, and people who've never known each other before are now legit friends, like supporting each other outside of the group, you know, and cheering for each other outside of the group. Like I see everybody's posts on their social media and I see who's commenting, and that it's beyond warming my heart. That's the reward for me, is when I see people who did not know each other before, and the reason they know each other is because they take class together with me, and they're cheering each other on in their own, you know, on their own personal pages. You know, it's amazing. That's amazing to me. I think that's the thing I never expected.
And I think that sense of community is like very strong, you know. And I think because as humans, I think that's what we're meant to be, part of a community. And you've given people a community online through flamenco.
Exactly. And there's actually an official term for that. It's called community effervescence. Community effervescence. And it's exactly that. When we come together as a group, and it does not have to be in person. It can be an online group, and you physically pass through movement, like coordinated together movement. And what I've discovered in my classes is it doesn't have to be a complex dance choreography at all, because I don't teach choreography in class, because that's intimidating to people. And I know that from the past. So we move and they follow along in the moment. Whatever I'm doing, they sort of echo it, right? And it's not learning a choreography and, oh, I messed up the step, you know, or, oh, that step is too hard. Like, I don't do that stuff. But we do pass through things, and we're doing the same movement at the same time to the same piece of music. That's community effervescence. It just happens because our brains are built that way. They are.
That is amazing. You know, for example, what is a flamenco? I mean, I know we got a limited space here, but what is a flamenco movement? Like, can you give us an example?
Oh yeah. So let's see. Oh, I'll do other one that's easy to fit into the camera, since I have the camera set up, and I'm sitting here. And we did talk about sedentary, right?
Yeah.
But still working in movement to what you're doing. So here's a really good exercise you can do, even if you're sitting at your computer, because a lot of us are sitting at our computers, right? So you give yourself some good posture, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and pretend that you're holding a beach ball and kind of stretch out your fingers and your thumbs so you get that nice stretch in the hands. And all you need to do is circle your wrists around. And right away, like I know for me, I'm already feeling some snap, crackle, pops in my wrist joints. This is so good for releasing tension. And those little popping sounds, it's just releasing tension. That's all it is. So that's a good thing. So it's so good for releasing tension in your wrists. It's also really good, and you can reverse the direction of the wrist circles. It's also really good for conditioning the muscles in the forearms, right? So we're getting a lot of muscle conditioning in here. It's great for conditioning these tiny muscles in your hands. Oh my goodness, right? These thumbs, especially after typing all day or in the middle of your day. And this is another one of those things you can just do for 5 minutes, right? Just take a 5-minute break from actual typing, right? And maybe while you're reading, right? Reading on the screen and you're not actively typing, you can be reading like this. You see? You can be reading your email. You're not typing yet, but look what you're doing. You see? And then after, this feels so good. It energizes the hands, energizes, and the forearms. So good. So
what I just did that. I got a lot of those snap, crackle, pops when I was doing that too, but I'm like,
right?
Now I feel loose.
See?
Yeah,
exactly. And the other thing is that, it's not a kind of a move, not to put down another type of movement, but just as an example, those squeezy things for developing your grip strength. I'm not putting those down, but like maybe that's not necessarily like an artsy move, or an inspiring move, that's in the category of maybe like, oh, okay, I got to do this thing, but at least this move, there's also, a little bit of arte to it, and a little bit of flair to it. So, that also helps the mind to kind of play games with itself and think to itself, oh, but this is me with flair. Instead of, oh, this is me doing an exercise, right?
I love that explanation. So our theme this season is try. So what is it that you would like people to try?
All right, so here we go with the word try. In my classes, it has developed very organically through what we do, first of all, but also through a piece of music that I discovered using Siri, and happened to discover it's a piece of contemporary Celtic bagpipe music. It is a version of the Star Wars theme. And what they did was they took a little sample of Grown Up Yoda's, this one line from Grown Up Yoda, and embedded it into the piece of music. It's a really inspiring piece of music, so that's why I use it in the class for a cool down. But here's the line that Yoda says in the song: do or do not, there is no try. And then the music goes, and it goes crazy, right? And then we go crazy. So that almost unintentionally, it was very organic the way it happened. That has actually become a theme for us is, there is no try. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. You're either here in class or you're not, right?
I love that.
Yeah, and those of us who are in class, I include myself in there, those of us who are in class doing, we're getting the results.
Yes.
And if we're not in class, well, you know, unless it's a rest day, that doesn't count. That's a whole other conversation. If it's a muscle rest day, different story, different conversation. But if it's just like, I didn't feel like going to class, right? Then that's in the do not pile. And there's nothing in between there.
I was just thinking of the Nike phrase, just do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, and whether that's for a half hour or 5 minutes, like just do it for 5 minutes. And then you might find that you want to do it much longer.
Right. Another thing you can do is do it for 5 minutes and then maybe later in the day, another 5 minutes. And then you've got 10.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I love that because a lot of the research is saying that you don't have to do a half hour of exercise straight. It can be these little increments throughout the day.
Exactly. They're cumulative.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Somebody recently told me this too, is because, well, actually, I'll tell you, it was my cardiologist when I was complaining about exercise. And he says to me, half hour of exercise or movement a day. And he said, you have 48 opportunities in a 24-hour period to find 30 minutes to exercise. Because when I kept on using the excuse, I don't have enough time, he goes, you have 48 chances to do this. And I was like, oh, when you put it like that. And now if you break that down into 15-minute segments, you have that many more opportunities for 5 minutes. You know?
Right. I know. It's like I'll have to get my calculator to do that one.
Yeah, that's too much math for me.
I know. So I'm not gonna do that math. Speaking of do or do not, it's like, well, I'm gonna do not on the math, but
don't tell my father he was a chairman of the math department growing up, so don't tell him that. But so Dr. Coco, where can people find out more information about you?
Well, people can go to my website. It is www.cocosflamefit.com, and that's spelled COCOS, Flame Fit. That's my website. There's all sorts of information on all the courses. You can also find me on Instagram. That's at Coco's Flame Fit. And I also started a new YouTube channel with the start of 2022, and that is called, officially it's called Dr. Coco's Flame Zone, but the show, because I do it as an interview TV show format, is called Coco's Flame Zone. I think I'm going to actually go ahead and change my YouTube, what is it called, handle or whatever, account or something, to just Coco's Flame Zone.
I love that. I love that.
So Coco, I'll change. You know what I'll do? I'll change it this afternoon so that by the time this goes and everybody's seeing it, it'll be Coco's Flame Zone on YouTube. I'll do that this afternoon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And I want to remind everybody, make sure you go check her out. And also your social media is super fun. So also when you're there checking out her site and her YouTube, don't forget to go to wytv7.org and check out all the other wonderful program that we have. While you're there, click the donate button, because every dollar that you give, even the lowest amount, will help us not only bring in great shows like this, but more specifically, it helps with all our community service. And you can go and see what we're doing in the community on that website. Also, don't forget to come back here next week for another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit, and follow me, Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, in a number of different social medias. So once again, Coco, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Betsy. This was absolutely a joy.